Started this film in 2005. I came up with the idea when very long story which I won't bother going into now, but I found out that there were not just one or two, but there were so many different chemicals that scientists were finding serious effects on their laboratory animals when they ran tests, and major effects of affecting all different types of organ systems. And these were chemicals that were found in products aimed at children, products that were either specifically aimed at children or aimed at women, that we would then get the chemicals into our bodies and we would pass them on when we became pregnant. And therefore the children would then get it. And I just could not believe that no one knew about it. I was so conceited. I was just thinking, it can't be true, right? Because we would know.
I mean, the film is very powerful. As I said to Penelope earlier, I was vacillating between, one, just looking at her, your gorgeous son, and going, oh my God, I want one, you know, like my uterus is skipping a beat, I need one. And then being terrified and going, I'm polluted. I'll be, you know, in my mid-30s and I wear makeup and I've been very conscientious for the past several years, but there's 30 years or so that I have to make up for. Is that even possible to create an inner ecology that would support a healthy child?
It goes back again to awareness, because what's really interesting, for example, in Holland, we have 3 Dutch scientists in the film, and they speak very eloquently about their studies. They do a lot of work in the Netherlands. They now advise women to plan their pregnancies. Over 75% of pregnancies in the Netherlands are planned. And so they tell their mothers, you know, change your diet, change the product application that you put on your skin. You know, so there's this whole sort of concept of really preparing. It's like a farmer preparing soil. You know, you wouldn't just go out and just kind of drop some seeds in and just go and just like, I hope we have a good harvest this year. You know, it's all about sort of, you know, preparing it and making sure it's in its most optimal state.
It's very eye-opening, obviously, and it's just, it's a little terrifying, a lot terrifying actually, just because our environment is inescapable. We're in it all the time, every day, 24/7. It's not something that we can just, you know, set aside. And we're just completely subject to it. So if these, I mean, like the part of it when it says we have 30 to 50,000 more chemicals in our body than our grandparents, and to think if that's going to continue and grow, our grandchildren, I mean, it's just like, when does it stop and when does it go back to the direction?
I think this happens because of ignorance. I think you can do these things because people aren't calling you out on it. No one knows about it. I think when you find out, then there is that question as to why is this happening? And I think certainly with greater public awareness, there's greater motivation on the part of politicians and enterprise to follow what the public's saying. It's one of the things we talk about at the end of the film, that actually we think we're so powerless, but actually we're incredibly powerful. We are the single most important link in the chain of consumerism, because we know, especially in this economy, if we don't consume, we know what happens. Yeah. And so if we have the ability to consume in a way that is not just automatic, in a way that's very conscious, in a way that has so much understanding attached to it, then we actually have huge amounts of power. And that's where change comes from.
We learned as an architect that most people aren't going to make these kind of changes just because they want to save trees or think about saving polar bears. That if their health is at risk, then they're going to start to take conscious awareness of this. And as we've seen, it's only been in the last few years or so that these things are starting to surface at a much higher rate. And because of our organization, Healthy Child, we've seen that there's a whole society out there of people who are chemically sensitive, And this has really happened in the industrial world, and a lot of people just have no consciousness at all that such a thing exists.
Yeah, watching the film, I mean, I felt humbled. I mean, I consider myself fairly aware, fairly educated in the design community, you know, designing with green materials, and yet, you know, I watched the film thinking, how can this be happening? How do I not know this? How I'm reflecting, I have a 6-year-old son, and thinking, why does he always have allergies? Why is he always congested? Why is he allergic to nuts? And then just the tape of my mom saying, we didn't have this back then. Why are all these kids sick? And that tape was just kind of, you know, playing in my head. I was watching the film.
Well, you know, it's a really interesting point you say about your mother, because I get this from my mom as well, and I think we all get this from our moms, and that is the rate of change in chemical production. One of the scientists talks later on in the film that global chemical production is set to double. It doubles every 25 years. And so it can do this because we don't know about this. A product comes on to the market and we get a great advertising campaign, we're marketed to, we're told, oh look, it will do this, it will tie our shoelaces and, you know, make our dinner for us, and we're like, great. So there's no impetus to sort of question. And we think back at how our parents and our grandparents lived, and, you know, that level of ill health, chronic ill health, is just unheard of. So, you know, we have more and more things to make our lives better, and yet we're getting sicker and sicker and sicker.
I guess my recurring thought through the film was the fact that students do spend a bulk of their time at school, and when they especially was talking about the toxins that we are in daily, I was thinking about, say we were talking about killing bugs, and we don't use pesticides, but someone's like, oh, use Windex. And then I was listening, I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, Windex is still toxic. And so that's a line that we're drawing, and it's just interesting to me, like how much are the kids, and he was talking about the kids being low to the ground, and my kids sit on the floor to do group work. And we clean the carpets, and so, but are we using environmentally friendly cleansers in the carpet the kids are sitting near? So all these questions were kind of going through my head of all the little things that you maybe don't think about.
It's an excellent point actually, because our children, we all know as parents that we pass our children on to their teachers and to schools, and you know, you do everything that you can in your home. But when they go to school, they're spending the vast majority of their time at school. And it also illustrates how, when you look at children, this issue of toxicity just permeates almost every aspect of a child's life. I mean, there's a huge amount of debate about the educational system at the minute, quite, you know, very much quite rightly so. But you could have the best teachers, you could have the best teaching system available, but if children are missing school because of asthma, the best educational system is not going to help them. If they cannot concentrate in school because of the food that they're eating or the food that they're fed in school, then it's really, you know, again, the greatest educational system in the world is not going to help them. I think when you're a woman and you become aware of your capacity to reproduce and have children, you go through this arc of awareness and just awe at the capacity of the human body to do what it does. And with that comes the most, it's almost primitive, the instinct to protect, the instinct to nurture, and you know, you would literally do anything for your child, you really, really would. And those two things come together in the most perfect sort of way. I make a joke, everybody says their child's great, but my child is great, but you know, I do think so, and all of our children are great, and they deserve everything that we can give them and everything we can do to protect them.